Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about a great book about magic, which is The Magick of Aleister Crowley, and the subtitle is A Handbook of the Rituals of Thelema. This is by Milo DuQuette, who has done the commentary and notes in this book. And this is published by Weiser. It was published about a year ago, and this is part of the Weiser Classics series, which is a kind of reissue of important previous Weiser publications. So it's a very good book as part of that series. And I quite like this book because it really is a handbook. It's a handy book because it's compact, and I really like this book because it has the work of Crowley from his Magick in Theory and Practice and the Book of the Law, and those books are also included in 4 books of magic by Aleister Crowley, and I have already reviewed this book on my channel, so there's already a review of this book for people who are interested. But that's a very thick book, and of course this is a great book and I really love this book, but it's not the kind of book that you can pick up and read a lot. It's something that is more of a reference book. It's a great reference book. But I love the idea of having something more compact, and it's more accessible in that way. And also because of the way this book has been written, it's got not only the commentary and notes, particularly for the Magick in Practice component of the Crowley books. So Magick in Practice is particularly covered in this book and the Book of the Law. And I just love the way that this book has been written. I love the introduction to each section of the book. So, for example, all the different parts of the book, they're all divided up with with commentary and introduction to each one. And it's a great idea because I think there's a lot of people who have the Crowley books and also use them as reference books, but they don't have the background to these books, all of the information and background to what the books are about and why Crowley wrote them and why he wrote them in a certain way. So this book is really worth getting. So I'll talk about what's in the book, and I really love the inner cover. We have this here. It's beautiful Egyptian picture here. It's really quite beautiful. It's the inside of the front cover, and then the inside of the back cover is the actual stele of revealing that the Book of the Law was inspired by when Crowley visited Egypt and had his visions and inspiration to write the Book of the Law. So this is the stele of revealing. This picture is on the inside cover of the book. So I'm going to talk about what's in the book, and also very first pages, near the title, you have got Crowley's Kabbalah glyph or diagram with his correspondences on here, which are different to the Golden Dawn, because this is Crowley's own Thelema, his philosophy of Thelema and the Magick of Thelema. There are magical practices in here that include some of the Golden Dawn practices as well, but in addition there are the practices of Crowley, which are the Thelemic practices and his approach. So I'm just going to talk about the contents that are in here. There are some diagrams in here. There's not a lot of diagrams, but the ones that are in here, of course, are very, very useful. So you have this here. So this is all describing not only the philosophy and ideas of Crowley, but the cosmology and the mythology that's all behind it. So it's a really good book. This was originally published in 1993, so this is really the 30th anniversary edition. There was another edition in 2003, so that's still 20 years as well. So it hasn't been, there were three publications of these: 1993, 2003, and then this latest 30th anniversary edition. So to talk about what's in the book, the very first chapter, that is actually before chapter 1, Milo DuQuette has called it chapter 0, and it's quite an important chapter because he writes about frequently asked questions about Aleister Crowley, and I think that's really important to start with that. A person like Aleister Crowley, there needs to be that kind of introductory chapter, because there was always so much conjecture about Aleister Crowley, and Milo DuQuette has decided to address some of these questions or statements and rumours that float around. So I'm glad that he's done that. Then after that introductory chapter, it goes into chapter 1 is the Magick of Will. So Milo starts to talk about what that is and defining what the Magick of Will is according to Crowley. Chapter 2 is the evolution of magical formulae. So it's sort of like the background of that, of Crowley's own magical formulae. Chapter 3 is the Book of the Law. And once these actual writings of Crowley begin, this is where there is this introduction, this short page or two of introduction before each of these books of Crowley. So that's a great idea. Chapter 4 is the pentagram rituals. And to begin with, the pentagram rituals are the Golden Dawn based ones, and then after that you have the Thelemic rituals of the pentagram. For example, the star ruby. So if you have a look at chapter 4 and you look at the pentagram rituals of the Golden Dawn, and then you can compare in the following the difference with the Thelemic rituals of the pentagram and the star ruby. Then chapter 6 are the hexagram rituals, and again these are the hexagram rituals of the Golden Dawn. and this includes the lesser ritual of the hexagram. And then chapter 7 is the Thelemic ritual of the hexagram, which is the star sapphire. So, I mean, that's really interesting too, because I think a lot of people may get a little bit confused about, just how different are the Thelemic rituals of Crowley compared with the Golden Dawn rituals for the pentagram and for the hexagram. So I think that's really a good idea. Then chapter 8 goes into knowledge and conversation of the guardian angel. I would call that with the guardian angel. And that is Liber Samek. Then chapter 9 are the solar rites, which is Liber Resh and Helios. And then chapter 10 is Thelemic mysticism. So all of these things are great chapters, and this is information that really helps to give not only information but far more background, so there's understanding of the approach of Crowley, and it helps in the understanding, especially when you have a more compact book to read with this, instead of referring to this much larger reference book. I think, to be honest, I think this is a really good book to start with before you possibly buy the larger work. I am definitely finding this book really useful, and I think for anyone who has not really looked at the Magick of Crowley in a substantial way, or just approaching it and understanding it, I think this is a really good book. So at chapter 10 you have the Thelemic mysticism, and then chapter 11 are the rites of Eleusis, which are the Greek rites of Eleusis. And then you have a chapter 12 is all about Thelemic orders, and this is all about the different ranks within Thelema and other things as well. The different god, the different gods, the different pantheon. The pantheon, which is mainly the Egyptian. There were some Greek gods and goddesses as well, but it's mainly Egyptian. And then you have the religion of Thelema is the last chapter, and this is really talking about the intentions of Crowley into the future, and especially what he envisaged, how he thought religion would change. And what he wanted, of course, was for Thelema to be the modern and futuristic religion or spirituality, which in a lot of ways people would say, well, that hasn't really happened, but there's far more members of the Order of Thelema now. It's not only far more than in Crowley's day, but it is a substantial size for orders, for esoteric and magical orders these days, because a lot of these orders, there's not many around anymore, and it's probably, Thelema is probably the only order that has got some growth happening. At least it's stable, and who's to tell what is going to happen as time progresses. And then there is a conclusion of the book with notes and a very good bibliography. The notes are very worthwhile as well. There's all other kinds of things in here as well, like explaining what the eons meant with Crowley. There was he had these ideas of the Eon of Horus, which is really the time period that we're living in now. And I just think this book is really worthwhile. I think for people who do want to work with the Magick of Crowley, even if they want to just understand it more and get a good background to what it's about, and even what was meant in the writings of Crowley. I wouldn't say that this is an easy read. I think it's for people who want more of an explanation in order to understand the ideas of Crowley in regard to magic. So I don't want people to think, oh, this is going to be a much easier approach. I think the best comparison I could make with this book is the book, one of the other books that Milo DuQuette has written about the Thoth Tarot, called Understanding the Crowley Thoth Tarot. That book was really his commentary and his explanation about the Thoth Tarot, and this is really, in a lot of ways, this is the same type of thing. So it's not as if people are going to think that this is a fairly simplistic book about the magic and ideas of Crowley, because let's face it, with Crowley you can't really do that. But it is very good to have a useful book that can at least give a good background and explanation. It's easier to understand than the work of Crowley, but it is not easy to understand. I hope you can follow what I'm saying here, because it's not only because this is to do with the writings of and ideas of Crowley. It's not only that. Esoteric topics and magic in general are not necessarily simple and easy to read. So this book is really for people who really want to know more about the Magick of Crowley, and they may also have some other books by Milo DuQuette, so they know the style of his writing as well. But for me, I think this book is really worthwhile, especially if you have Magic in Theory and Practice by Crowley, or you have these 4 books of magic, much larger book, and you have that as well. So it's for people who particularly want to know more about the Magick of Crowley. So I think this book is very worthwhile, and I'm really glad that I've got this book. And I wanted to tell everyone about it in case you're interested in getting it. I'll put some details below the video. There isn't an index in here, but you don't really need it because there's a very good contents in the front. Everything is pretty much laid out as you go along, so you don't really need an index because the contents is quite good. So the Magick of Aleister Crowley, the Handbook of Rituals of Thelema. So Milo, DuQuette, and part of the Weiser Classics series. So I'll put some details below the video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.